Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. This is Pat again with a thought from Scripture today. Today it takes us to Acts chapter 19, and I'm going to just do this in a kind of a story format. I'm not going to read the whole accounts here, but this is the Apostle Paul when he was performing miracles at Ephesus among the Ephesians, and we've been doing a study at our church on the book of Ephesians, and this story was mentioned last week, and my apologies to Pastor Kirk, but it is confirmed it was chapter 19, not chapter 20. But nonetheless, Paul's in his ministry in Ephesus, and the story is basically like this. In Ephesus, it's very Greek influenced, so there was a lot of selling of statues and things that were Greek gods, and it was quite a profitable venture. People wanted their crops blessed, or fertility blessed, and things like that. And of course, the god Artemis was there, and the god of fertility. And but Paul, in his preachings of Jesus, as we all know, those of us who are true Christians, we know that goes directly against any other religion. That is one of the wonderful facets of the Christian faith. Is in Christianity, God came to us. God intervenes with us. We don't have to do these steps and all these performance things, all these legalistic performance rituals, or whatever you want to call it. We don't have to do all that to be with God. He's provided the door. The door is through Jesus Christ. And that is the key for the Christian, is what have you done with Jesus? I think that's a great question for Christians today, because it seems like in many cases we tend to ignore Jesus. And we don't want to ignore Jesus, because he is the center of the faith. If you want to destroy Christianity, come on, you got to destroy Jesus. If you can't destroy Jesus, you can't destroy Christianity. So that's all there is to it. But this is a story that is in Acts, and I'm going to read this real quick. There's a guy named Demetrius, and he was a business guy, a silversmith, who made silver shrines of Artemis. And he had, it says here, and about the time there arose no small disturbance concerning the way. And at that time, this is the way. These are the followers of Jesus spreading the gospel of Christ now. This isn't long after Jesus has been resurrected and ascended. For a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith who made silver shrines of Artemis, was bringing no little business to the craftsmen. These he gathered together with the workmen of similar trades and said, Men, you know that our prosperity depends upon this business. And you see and hear that not only in Ephesus, but in almost all of Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned away a considerable number of people, saying that the gods made with hands are no gods at all. And not only is there danger that this trade of ours fall into disrepute, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis be regarded as worthless, and that she whom all Asia, the world, worships, should even be dethroned from her magnificence. And then they heard this, and were filled with rage, and began crying out, saying, Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. And basically what happens is, this guy stirs up a crowd of people. And there were a couple folks who were with Paul, and his entourage that were with him, and they grabbed these guys. And in Ephesus, and I don't really have a lot of time to go into it, because this type of viewing is kind of short-lived, but there was a great Colosseum in the city, and it seated about 21,000 people. So picture yourself being drug in here on account of the preachings of Paul, which were hurting these guys' business. And you go in here, and you're talking to everybody, and you're doing everything, and you go in here, and you know, you're being set in front of these 21,000 people, and there's this chant, Great is Artemis, great is Artemis, great is Artemis, and there's all this hullabaloo going on. And believe me, if you stand up for what's right, you will get drawn in front of the crowds. I myself personally experienced that when I used to be a student on the campus of Ohio State, and I was part of a group of men who, it was really neat. Each of us individually was spoken to by the Lord, and the Lord brought us together. There was about 4 to 6 of us, and we knew that we had to do open-air preaching on campus, and we did it for about 3 years. I spoke openly in open-air preaching at the campus. It's a great experience. If you want an evangelistic training, it's a great place. And I experienced, I was actually at one point taken before the crowd because of another Christian believer who had a little different methodology. I think was improper, but I was drugged before him in front of everybody and had was really put in a precarious position where I had to show that we were both followers of Jesus, and that united us. But nonetheless, it was one of those things that, was a great experience. But what happens here is this crowd gets in an uproar, and all of a sudden, towards the end of this, a man stands up. And he basically, the town clerk, it was the guy's name. One person stood up and said, hey, we have laws for this. And if there is something that somebody has against someone else, we have courts for this. And that's the proper way to do it. And all at once, the crowd simmers down and disperses. My point about today's story in this section of Acts, and I encourage you to read it, Acts 19, starting around verse 20, is that it only takes one. It only takes one person who cares enough, knows enough, has experienced the presence of Jesus enough to change a crowd of 21,000 people, to calm the rioting, to calm the craziness. In our country today, you don't have to, turn on the TV long to see the craziness in this political campaign. It's time to calm down. Most people at this point have kind of made up their minds, although I think there may be historically more that haven't at this point. But it's time to calm down and encourage people to simply vote their conscience. Not to persuade them one way or the other, but to simply vote their conscience. Last night, I think I came to my final decision of who I'm voting for. And I want to shout out to the Mark Levin TV. If you never checked it out, do it. It is awesome, tremendous. And I just want to thank Mark Levin for a very honest and just simply honest and open look at what the conservatives should do. And I'm talking to people who are truly conservatives, not the one that just do lip service to it. So the fact of the matter is, we have a decision to make, and we need to vote our conscience. And Mr. Levin, if you get a chance, you should check it out, this episode of why he's voting. He tells who he's going to vote for, but that's for him to say. I'm not going to do that. But nonetheless, he talks about what he's doing and why, and it was a very, for me, calming, educational, and gave me peace to make my decision as well. So, but nonetheless, I want to encourage you today to be the calm that brings down the storm. It only takes one. In the power of Jesus, it only takes one person. Sometimes it only just takes speaking the word Jesus, and everything just, because he is the final authority, isn't he? You have a great day. May God bless you, and enjoy your day today. We'll see ya.